We had a planner.
It's kind of like a Pavlovian thing. It's a good thing you didn't, or else I might come out swinging.
So we have to say thank you to everyone for coming out when we were doing this book and talking about where to go. I said, obviously, we have to stop in Minneapolis because people here are amazing, and obviously we are. So thank you, everyone, for coming out. We are going to talk about Our Fight, our new book, and one of the things, we've done several of these stops, and what I told Ronda tonight is we're not going to ask all the questions that everyone's asked 800 times and kind of pull different things from. So what you'll get tonight is things no one's heard at all. Although I will start with one. Talking about Our Fight, why now? Why write this book? Why was it so important?
Well, yeah, first of all, thank you everybody for coming out. I think now is the time that I was the first time that I could write it, because there was a lot of things that I couldn't speak about publicly until now, and I didn't think that there was any other way to express these kind of things except for like the long form of a book. And namely, it was about my concussion history and everything that I've been dealing with on that front that I wouldn't be able to speak about if I was still fighting or wanted to be in the WWE, or the WWE wouldn't let me perform if they knew how often I was having concussions. And so yeah, now that I feel like I kind of put that behind me, I can finally talk about what I didn't think that I would be able to share until now.
You know, and so much of what we have talked about in the writings book is putting it in your own words, and why it was so important for you to be able to tell your side of the story in this long form. You know, what was it about that was so essential to you that it couldn't just be something that you threw out on social media, even though you have lots of followers? But why did it need to be so long?
Well, I think that everything just goes through like so many different filters. Like even if you talk to a reporter and you're being quoted, then they have to sum up your whole conversation into an article, and then that has to go through an editor, and that has to go through their boss, and so you're just getting like someone else's take on your take on your, on their take on their take, and it just kind of, I think it gets lost. And the short form of social media, it's tiny, and I feel like there's just a whole lifetime of reasons and things going on, and everything is so like multifaceted and not so simple. It was nothing that could have been fit into 180 characters, and so I just felt like it was the only way. Unfortunately, I'm related to like award-winning sports journalist that like teaches how to write memoirs at colleges, and I was like, what, Maria? Oh, we like writing a memoir. Like the first one was like real good. We should do it again. It's like a lot of like life happened since then, and you're like, all right, that's how it happened. That was the conversation verbatim.
Well, one of the things too, so there's a lot of stories that have kind of come out and got a lot of headlines. Concussions was one of them. Your thoughts on what was happening in the death throes of the Vince McMahon era of WWE. What are one or two of the things in the book that haven't gotten enough attention that you wish were making headlines?
Earmuffs for the children. Okay, yeah, I have that song already. Well, one thing I felt like didn't get enough attention, that I was on Snoop Dogg's list of people that he wanted to smoke with. I felt like that really floored me, and I feel like that should have been on the intro. I'm adding that to my Wikipedia. Nobody cared, but it really mattered a lot to me. And so that is preserved forever in print. That's it.
That'll be your tombstone.
On the tombstone.
Snoop Dogg's list, wife, mother, athlete.
Yeah, that person.
Talk about the process of writing a book. There's a lot that's in here. There's also a lot that you said before, there's a word count that we had to meet, we couldn't go over. But talk about that process. How did you figure out what was going to go in there, what wasn't going to go in there?
Well, our main process is Maria was actually on the road with me and helping watch me pose. So she was the writer / babysitter, and a lot of times when stuff was going on with WWE backstage, I'd look at her and be like, "This is crazy, right? This is absolutely ridiculous because everyone's acting like this is normal." She'd be like, "Yes, this is not reasonable. Okay, thank you. In the book, it goes in the book." And so there was a lot of times where we were just in the middle of a crazy day, and the kind of things that would get lost in confusion, you might even forget about, and she was to the side being like typing it all up. And then after 18 months of just chaos, then you consolidated it into like, okay, this is kind of how I've chronicled our journeys, and then then I would make a pass on her pass and be like, okay, I feel like this should be worded this way, or this is right, this is wrong, da da da. The great thing is that we grew up together, and so we have a very similar way of speaking and rhythm and tone and everything like that. So a lot of times she'll write something and I'm like, did I say that, or did she actually write that? And a lot of times I don't know where one of us stops and the other begins. And it was basically like we would pass it back and forth of like, okay, this is what I think it should be, and then you would try to, you would improve it, and then I would like put my changes on it, and eventually we would stop. And then we had 130,000 words, and we had to bring it down to 90,000 words. So I would have talked so much more. I didn't get to mention the mintigs, the miniature tigers. Never mind. I don't want to get into it. It's a really long joke, but there was like a big chronicle about the buses that we had to completely take out, and a whole bunch of other things. But the meat and potatoes was there. It's much more streamlined experience that way. We didn't like veer off into like, and screw that guy when it's not related. I shouldn't even go there.
So we're coming off of WrestleMania weekend, and one of the things that a lot of people have been texting you with the book coming out was why it was so important. You've said that, and saying, there's things that we wish we could say that we can't say because we're under contract with WWE and all this. Why was it important to you to tell that story, to put it all out there, to name names, which a lot of people have not done in the past? Why was that important? Why did it matter, especially for women in professional wrestling?
Well, I think everybody, not even just the women in the profession, they're basically held hostage by their careers, and there are repercussions for speaking negatively about the company. And fortunately, I don't have to worry about those. So, because I'm not depending on it for my livelihood and to be able to feed my children and to keep a roof over our heads. And a lot of people are stuck in a position where they have to tolerate things that they normally wouldn't tolerate, and keep their mouth shut about things that they would rather speak up about. And so I'm happy to be the one to speak up. And a lot of privately, a lot of people have said like, thank you for bringing this up, thank you for bringing this to light, because they feel like they can't. And so I'm always happy to be the designated bitch. I would always be like, oh, just blame me, it's fine. And so I'm not the only one, but yeah, I feel like luckily I have the freedom to be able to speak about these things.
What do you hope people reading this book take away? What was, first, what's your purpose for reading it or writing it, and then what do you hope people take from it when they sit down and read it?
I guess my purpose for writing it is I wasn't able to speak about a lot of these things for so long, and so like the media and everybody else had to kind of create their own narrative and assumptions and everything that was going on with me, and I just wanted to have like my truth and my version out there. But my main takeaway by the end was I never accomplished all of those really lofty goals that I set for myself. I wanted to win the Olympics in judo, I never did. I wanted to retire undefeated from MMA, I never did. And just so many other things. And I was able to learn and accomplish and gain so much by falling short. And my main takeaway by the end was, if the pursuit of something itself isn't fulfilling you, then even if you do reach your goal, it's not going to make up the difference.
When we were getting ready to promote the book, one of the things that kept coming up again and again was people saying, oh, a blessing in disguise. And you, every time that wording would come up, would cross it out and write opportunity. What does that mean to you, and why is that phrasing so important?
I think we covered it in the book. It just feels like the word blessing is passive, like something that happened to you. And I feel like opportunity is something that you have to take advantage of, that you have to do something about it. Like tragedy can happen and you can just not learn and not adjust and not change anything, and it can just happen over and over again. And so I feel like, learning and changing and evolving from tragedy is really how you make it into an opportunity. And that's not, I don't know, I just feel like if you're blessing yourself, I feel like people, should give themselves credit for overcoming things, and instead of feeling like, it just happened.
One of the things you talk a lot about is kind of reinventing yourself. You've gone from being a UFC, Olympian, UFC fighter, WWE, mom. What's your next reinvention?
Hopefully New York Times best-selling author. Yeah, like, the farming and ranching and, being with my family. And when me and my husband are hoping to move to Hawaii in a couple years when our boys graduate from high school. And I was taught for free to do judo. Everything was nonprofit, it'd be like $20. To do judo a month, and it was just money to keep the lights on. And so you were taught with the expectation that you would teach for free someday because you were taught for free. So I would like to open a dojo and just teach local kids for free and teach them judo and MMA and pro wrestling, and just be a resource for the community.
If you could, now this is what I'm going to pull out, if you could change things about pro wrestling, you've been hearing a lot about things are supposedly changing. How would you change it?
Well, I would give the men and women equal representation for time that they have on the card, and I would also give both the men and women more time to prepare. A lot of times they're sent out there to do things on the fly with no preparation, and I think unless you're Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, it's much more dangerous, and people don't do their best work that way. If they really asked me, I would say after every pay-per-view, I'll get all the writers together, and writers would also talk to the talent and get their pitches, and then take them to whoever's the head of creative and be like, okay, this is what we want to do. These are the matches we want to have for the next pay-per-view. And in that time, the wrestlers could start rehearsing and putting together ideas and practicing different spots at live shows and things like that, and actually know what they're going to do in all of the shows in between, and put together their promos and their segments and everything like that. And so instead of just finding out what's going on at the venue and having it change nonstop until you go out there, of actually having a set program that you can change and it can evolve, but when you see a match at a pay-per-view, it's something that these people have been collaborating together and putting together over weeks, instead of something that just got haphazardly thrown together that day.
What of you, when you look at your legacy, right, what are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of the fact that women in combat sports have a career option now, and before there just wasn't. It was like a hobby. You couldn't make a living by being an MMA fighter or boxer or anything like that. So yeah, I'm just glad that women that have been Olympic wrestlers or judoka or taekwondo or boxing or wrestling or whatever. I said wrestling twice, but anyway, that they can have a career to go to after that if they want to keep pursuing that, and put that skill to use, instead of just being oh, I won an Olympic medal, well, time to start over. I'm glad that there's a career out there for women in combat sports now.
One of the things that you've done throughout your whole life is this obsession to be the best, right? You were doing swimming, you were going to be the best in that, and then you were doing judo, and you were going to be the best in the world in that, and then you were going to do, UFC, be the best in that, and where does that come from?
It comes from Mom. But it also came from Dad too, and that on the first book we got into it, I was very speech delayed, and my sisters were the opposite. They were very much ahead of everything, and very exceptional. And so, in comparison, I felt like I was dumb, or I just didn't feel like I compared to them. So, Mom and Dad kind of did they went really overboard in the other direction. They're like, "You're not dumb. You're exceptional. You're amazing. You're gonna win the Olympics. You're gonna be president." And all this stuff. They kind of confidence bombed me. And so anything that I did, I just did it with the expectation that okay, I'm gonna be the best at this, because that's what Mom and Dad said, that I could be the best at anything. And so that was just an expectation set early on, that it's okay, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna win the Olympics at it. And it just seemed normal, especially with mom being a world champion in judo, she's walking across the living room, with her, in her bathrobe and can't find her keys. It's like it didn't make it some alien concept. It's like, well, if mom could win the world championships, I can win the world championship. She can't even find her keys, and it just made it seem so doable.
I think Jennifer and I'd like to know, do we get a little bit of credit for toughening you up? She's not here, but I know she would love to.
My sisters whooped my ass. I feel like I was the smallest, and so yeah, you guys really made me a whole lot tougher, and I'm sorry you haven't got the most credit. But Jennifer's really great at this strategy of laying on the ground and kicking her legs up in the air, so I really felt like I've really got good at like defending from the guard when people do up kicks, thanks to Jen. And, I don't want to like give away all of your fighting secrets, but you made me great. Thanks, Maria.
Well, one thing too, talk about dealing with adversity, right? In lots of different ways. You've done lots of different ways, whether it's fighting or against WWE or just when UFC said, we're never going to let women in. What's your approach to dealing with adversity?
Well, my mom had this saying a lot. She said, "There's no history of anything There's no history of anything happening until it does, and then there is. And somebody has to be the first. Somebody has to be the best. Why not you?" And yeah, it just felt like, well, that's really good reasoning. What does everybody else have that I don't? And it's like audacious to feel like you could be better than other people, but it's not. I didn't think I could sit on the couch and be better. I felt like, okay, I just have to be able to work harder than everybody else. And for adversity and failing and different kinds of challenges and things like that, I think one thing that's really important is being willing to get your heart broken and come back from that over and over again, to not let that callous up and let yourself stop caring about succeeding because you don't want it to hurt if you don't. And that willingness to care about something so much that it'll hurt you so badly if you don't get it is, I think it's really brave, and it is what makes you put out more effort than anybody else.
And you were talking about that, we were talking about that the other day, where you were talking about, the importance of being willing to get your heart broken. And a lot of people, you feel, don't necessarily put out all that effort as a way to kind of self-preservation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like a natural thing to anyone to do, to not be hurt by not accomplishing something, is just to hold something back so that you can tell yourself like, oh, well, I didn't give it all I had, so if you didn't make it, you're like, oh, it's not, I could have done it if I put it all out there. And it's a courageous thing to give everything that you have to something, because then you will know whether or not your best is enough. And it's the reason why I just walk away from Monopoly. I was like, screw this game, I don't care about it anymore. And but it's in that small scale, those little things that it's the kind of habit that I don't know. You don't have to give your all to everything like Monopoly, but it's something that really matters to you. I feel like it's worth it to leave yourself open to being hurt by failing.
Well, and one thing that's interesting, the last book to this book, right? The last book you're talk about you're gonna walk away and never lose, and that was gonna be it, and take that with you. And this, we talk in WWE, when you leave the belt behind, and what that means to you, and that shift in perspective of being able to move things forward. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that WWE really taught me, in that it's about the division and not just yourself. And as an individual athlete, I'm like, it's all about me and everything that I do. And once it became bigger than myself in the UFC, and it became about the division, I realized once going into WWE that it was really a selfish goal for me to wanting to leave undefeated, because then I would take all the equity with me when I left. And I didn't want for the women's division to flounder after my exit like the Strikeforce women's division did after Gina left. And so, in retrospect, it's the best thing that could have happened for my legacy if I wanted, women in the UFC to continue on, better than ever before after me.
we definitely talk about some people in WWE who are terrible human beings. Who are some of the best people in WWE?
Oh, well, Natty Neidhart is incredible. She's like just a great mentor to all the women in the locker room. And when like everything's just chaos and going on, and everyone's losing it, she'll just be like, settle your tea kettle and like sit down, and she will like rally everybody and be like, okay, super, super simple. We're going to go out and do this. And she like was always like a leader and would rally everybody when, everyone was getting flustered by the challenges that we had to face. Stephanie McMahon is just like such a gem, and I'm very thankful for her as a friend and her guidance, and Triple H too for championing the women's division and believing in us and like pushing for us as much as possible and giving me a chance there as well. And like literally all the women in the locker room were incredible and would all band together, and everyone would, of course, think that we hate each other because that's what we're performing to do. But we were all secretly trying to get each other to laugh, and while we were out there and like break character and stuff like that, and go out there and do like inside jokes or like stupid accents, and it was all like a big joke to us when we were out there and just having a great time and like just whispering stuff to each other. You smack the other person around, like, take this, and then take the apron, and like, I just want to say they look really gorgeous tonight. Pow, 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 and like just trying to get each other to giggle. It was fun. It was like one show where it was like a live, non-televised show, and we decided to like, everybody was just speaking in Michael Hayes' accent like the whole day. And Natty used to sing Help Me Ronda to me when she was trying to get me to tag, and it was just all those little inside jokes and like fun moments. And there were a couple of the guys that were like really supportive to us as well, like AJ Styles would take time out of his day to try and help us out, and like and Daniel Bryan, and like so many of the men would go out of their way to really be like a resource for us, and to bounce ideas off of, and to come early, and to look at our matches, and to give us feedback. And so like the community there is incredible, and hopefully the leadership is changing enough to be able to bring them to their fullest potential.
What was it like going from being in, individual combat sports to then really being part of a team?
A lot less lonely, I guess, in a way. Because, if you're a fighter, it just feels like it's you against the world. Like everyone's trying to beat you physically. And so it's hard not to feel like you're in it on your own. At the end of the day, you're in that cage by yourself, and no one's coming to help you. And nobody understands what you're going through. You're going through it alone. And with WWE, you're going through it with somebody. And sometimes, like, when things are just going crazy, it's so helpful to look over to somebody and be like, this is crazy, right? And they're like, we're going to do this anyway, And it creates, like, such, like incredible bond between people with having these shared experiences and coming through it together, or going through it together, and things don't go right. And I remember we wrote about this in the book a little bit, that after I had my totally embarrassing having a dream naked in your classroom moment of, I went out there, I had to say some promo I didn't like, and then the crowd was, shitting all over me, and then we went and had to do a match on the fly, which already scared the hell out of me, which already wasn't the best that it could be because it was on the fly, and then the crowd was, was trolling our match the whole time, and then, like, Becky comes out, and I got to say, like, the promo that I wrote with all of the feeling and how mad I was, and, like, under her breath, she's like, good job. And like I don't know what the question was anymore, but it was like little moments like that I'll remember forever, and know that like this is something that we were doing with each other, for each other, and not against each other.
Well, and last question before I open it up to the audience, which is, now you've done this and you're going off talk a little about your future. I know you love to talk about cows, so I want to give you a minute or two to hit on that joy.
Well, if any of you guys know about regenerative agriculture, I think it can save the world, just saying. But yeah, we have our regenerative Wagyu and poultry ranch, Rousey Acres, which we work in concert with our animals to rehabilitate land that's been, mismanaged, and we allow our animals to, we basically rotationally graze them and mimic natural processes to build soil and sequester carbon into the ground and get people, meat from animals that had a life worth living and were treated with dignity and super healthy and good for you. And it's just like one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done, when it feels like the whole world could be doom or gloom around you, and sometimes it just feels like everybody hates your guts. I don't know if you ever had that feeling. I have. And you just take this one little piece of land and make it better. And it's just like tangible change and goodness happening, and it's one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done. And you should give it a shot. It changed my life. But browseacres.com, come and get your meat and poultry. But yeah, it's like one of the most fulfilling works, because it's also so hands-on and stuff like that we really get to be there day to day and working the land and with these animals. And we kind of got into it in the book just to help me with my own anxiety and just destructive thought processes and stuff like that. I started getting into creative writing and things like that, and writing this book as well. But yeah, I'm an intern at the WME story department, learning how to read and analyze scripts, because I'm a nerd. I don't know. And yeah, I got a comic book coming out from my first screenplay, and I actually wrote a whole screenplay during this book tour. It's just, I don't know, one of my hobbies, that I'm finally not trying to impress the world with everything that I do, but actually just doing something that's fulfilling in itself. And so yeah, I like to do that. I like writing, and hopefully we'll have my little judo club with my little ninjas someday.
All right, well, I know we're going to open up to Q&A, so we have a small enough group that I think people can kind of shout them out if I point to it. Yeah.
So you mentioned a nonprofit in the future. Do you possibly see yourself doing seminars sooner, maybe here and there, than later?
Well, actually, me and Trav were talking about doing some seminars for charity. I don't know if before we did the Don't Throw Up, Throw Down charity for eating disorders, and to donate money to D.D. Hirsch to do nonprofit mental health services. But we were wanting to do one for Lahaina wildfire survivors, and one maybe just in Maui for the people that have been affected, because they have a big MMA community and stuff there. So we would definitely like to do more, but I would think more for charity than for profit and stuff like that. In my judo days, I really needed to teach judo, seminars to be able to pay the bills. But now I think it's more of I was taught free, so I wanted to teach for free.
What's it like to work with Sylvester Stallone?
Sylvester Stallone was actually a really interesting mentor, and he gave me a lot of great advice, and he's given so many people their first chance in the industry. And a couple pieces of advice, we were at the Peninsula, which is some hoity-toity restaurant or whatever, and he said, he's like, look at everybody around you. There's a lot of they're not like me and you. We have durable egos. There's some very, very big, very, very fragile egos around you, and be aware of everyone else's fragile ego. And another thing, it was on the Expendables, we had to do the tattoo, the Expendables tattoo, and they wanted to put a shoulder tattoo, and he made them take it off and move it 6 times. He kept wanting to just to be moved the tiniest little bit, and he looks at me and he goes, "It's the fine strokes." Wait, yeah, it's the fine strokes, not the broad strokes, that makes fine art. And I'm like, I never forgot that. He was that much of an attention to detail, and he worked so hard. He would be filming, and then go and fly to Germany and do an interview, and then fly back and be filming the very next day. And he taught me a lot about work ethic and just hustling for yourself when you don't have any resources. And he was telling me when he was younger and he couldn't get any acting classes or anything like that, he would just repeat dialogue as he heard it on television. So someone would say a line, then he would say it, and it's just to get that feeling of the rhythm of being able to recite dialogue. And he created his own class for himself when he couldn't do it. And so he's one of the reasons why I'm like, you know what, no one's handing me a green lit Enter the Dragon. I'm gonna go write my own screenplay, just like Sylvester Stallone, you know, because nobody handed him a chance. So you know, why should I be expecting someone to do that for me? And so yeah, he's one of the reasons why I took the initiative and wanted to start writing for myself.
So would you think that Minneapolis deserves to host WrestleMania in the future?
I mean, if they can handle it, there's a lot of people that come in from town. I don't know about Minneapolis' infrastructure.
I heard an announcement. They haven't announced the next WrestleMania, so Minneapolis is hoping to get it.
Definitely.
Now that you're out of UFC and WWE, do you still watch either one? And if so, do you have any favorite fighters, competitors on either side?
To be honest, I don't. I watch Ponyo and My Neighbor Totoro on like a repeat all day long. Sometimes Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away, and Poe owns the TV. And sometimes Trav will want to watch like a heavyweight fighter or something like that. So we'll have fights on. Which is funny. She's actually really interested in fights when you put them on. But it's kind of like me. Like I'm not looking to put it on, but you put it on, and be like, ooh, what's going on? You know, I'll watch it, but. I don't watch judo anymore. I don't know. I just kind of like overdose on things. So I'll do something until I'm awesome at it, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna do a new thing. But yeah, I enjoy them, but I don't really go out of my way.
Raquel Pennington, she was on your season of Ultimate Fighter. She's the champ now. What do you think
I know,
of that?
she was my sparring partner in my last camp. I'm really happy for her. She has been at it, and put the work in for a long time.
So I train MMA at Rufus Sport in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm newer to jiu-jitsu. I go against a lot of guys that are bigger than me. I get thrown around a lot. I was just wondering what advice you have for me, somebody that's newer, training in jiu-jitsu and that kind of martial arts against bigger people.
Against bigger people, gi or no gi?
Both.
Okay. Well, one of the main things that really helped me overcome like the strength difference is learning grip fighting and being able to nullify somebody's grip, and it carries over to no-gi as well. So basically, because I didn't really have coaches that would go through my opponent's videos and all this stuff, I had to figure out how do I analyze someone very, very quickly. And everybody has a dominant hand, the lead side. Mm-hmm. And so whatever hand that is, if you're right-handed, your right hand is mine. You don't get to do anything with that right hand. If you're left-handed, your left hand is my hand, and you don't get to do anything with it. And so if you have somebody that is way stronger than you, or like a guy that's bigger, if he's right-handed, focus solely on that hand. Control that hand, and then he's going to be like just trying to get his hand free and to do whatever it is with that, and that's going to open up so many more opportunities and other things when they become so focused on you controlling their strong hand, that it opens other things up. It become good at what everybody else is bad at, basically. So the jiu-jitsu guys is more of like standing technique and stuff that you're having an issue with. Yeah, I would say immediately figure out what side they are and focus on that hand. They can't throw you if they don't have control of their own hand.
Okay.
And yeah, grip fighting was something that I was the best at judo, which they changed the rules, so now there's no grip fighting. But it really carried over into MMA and everything like that. And it's kind of like a dark art of the sport that no one really thinks about it, the control and positions and things like that. And yeah, I mean, there's like a whole black hole of like going down to like how you control other people's hands and things like that. But that's the first thing I would look for. What side is this person? And their hand's yours.
Okay. Thank you.
Wow.
So I want to know when, early in your career, when you, like your first few matches or your first half dozen, and there's tons of people, lights, cameras, what are you thinking when you're standing in your corner before you go out?
Well, I was fortunate in that I had like judo is like a almost like a rough draft of being in the spotlight and like in high pressure situations, and so mostly I would just completely block things out and completely zone in on the person that I was fighting and what I was doing, and I was always thinking about what is the first exchange, what's the first.
Nervous? I mean,
Oh yeah, of course nervous. My heart would be beating out of my chest. But I wasn't afraid of my own nervousness. I was not like, I wasn't scared of my heart beating super fast or me breathing super fast, because I knew I was in so much better shape than that other person that my heart could beat out of my chest all day. I could hyperventilate all over him. It doesn't matter. I'll never get tired. And so I wasn't scared of my own anxiety, if that made sense. If anything, it was what happened before I did great things. So I knew that if I was feeling nervous, if I was really scared, if I was, my body was doing all of these things that were outside of my control because I was so focused on something, I would be encouraged by that. Like, this is what predicts greatness. This is what happens to me before I explode, and instead of being, oh, I'm gonna get tired, oh, I'm breathing too hard, I can't be calm. Like, no, you're not supposed to be calm. I'm about to fight somebody. Like, it's fine. And that was more of, I wouldn't let it get to me because I knew I was scared because I cared. And I was scared because I was very aware of the reality of the situation, and I acted anyway because I was brave.
So I think we have time for 2 more questions. Okay, I guess. Yeah.
Is there a person that you didn't get a chance to fight that you wanted to put the hurting on but never got a chance to?
Fight like in MMA?
Yeah, like you some slick talker that you never actually got a chance to arm bar, put a hurt in.
No, they were the ones fighting to get a chance at me. I'm the champ, dude. If they were getting close, that was their problem.
So obviously there's one person you didn't get to fight that you wanted to fight? No?
I mean, I really wish I could have fought Gina Carano. That would have been really cool. But she was going on and doing her own thing, and I had to respect that. But I have appreciation for how she affected my life in a positive way. I would have loved to have fought her to show my gratitude. Like, that sounds terrible, but I wish I had that opportunity. But it is what it is.
Would there ever be a female fighting a male in MMA?
I mean, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, no one's asking me, but I don't think, our mom's on the athletic commission, I don't think she would sanction that.
So you obviously grew up together, but as you collaborated later in life, is there anything you learned about each other that you didn't really know, or just after spending a lot of time together?
I mean, that's more of a question for you. You're asking me all kinds of questions. I didn't get to hear that much about you.
I think when you're young and you fight all the time and your mom's like, someday you guys will get along, you look at each other, you're like, never. I think we realized, like, she was right. But I think it's just, nice to work with people you not just like, but love. So for us, I think it was really good. Sometimes I was like, are we going to get sick of each other? Are we going to go, But we didn't. So
No,
that was nice.
it really brought us a lot closer and like get to know each other as adults and to be friends and not just sisters and confident. A friend and a confidant, Yeah. We're gonna be Golden Girls now.
Sorry, yeah, and there's one more over there. I think I might have missed. Yeah, did you have a question?
Your first book was great. Which book took you longer to write?
Well, definitely this one, but only because they only gave us how many weeks to write the first one?
The first one was a crazy thing. We worked on it, and then we kept saying we have a different publisher this time because we worked on the first one. We turned it in, and we kept saying we've got to get this done. We have this date, and she said, "Oh yeah, we'll get to it." And then I was very pregnant with a small person back there who's not so small anymore. And then they called us after 3 months or 2 months of nothing, and then said, "You have 3 weeks to turn this book around and rewrite the whole thing." So we wrote that last book in less than 3 weeks because I took a couple days off because I just had a baby, and then you were in the middle of, you had a fight coming up, and so it was just like chaos. And this one we spent almost 2 years on.
Yeah. Wasn't even close.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much. I know there's going to be a photo op. So I don't know exactly how that works, other than single file line, no punching. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. See you guys over there.
Yeah, that was good. We could have guessed that, right, Mitch? We gotta stand up, I know that. Oh, it feels good to stand. Boy. Oh, excuse me.